let's go and build this from the ground up. We got a great core, and let's get going. But that's who we are in a nutshell. Is we create those next leaders that push us, right? We learn. I'm still learning from some of my executive chefs and front of house managers that of new innovative ways to touch people. I'm very old school. You talk about COVID. I had no social media, right? I didn't have Facebook, MySpace from way back in the day. Now they're on the third iteration of all this stuff. And they said, oh, Mr. E, you got to get up to this, Instagram, this. I said, guys, that's your baby, take off. And they have done a wonderful job, and that's what's keeping us relevant.
That's amazing. Well, you talked about chapter 4, which I'm so excited about. Both of you all are braver than me and have opened new concepts since the pandemic. Any differences or things to be learned? And then we'll go back to beyond brick and mortar.
You know, the pandemic has brought on a lot of variables. As you talked about, the labor force and the labor piece has just really, I don't know where the pool is going. It's tough right now, really tough. But it gives us that job to say, how can we be innovative? How can we create that culture where people want to come work for us? Even if they don't want to work the 40 hours a week anymore, how do they want to stay longer? How do they communicate well with the front of the house, the back of the house, and the bar? How do you create that family environment, not only with your employees, but now your employees are having that family environment with your guests and your loyal guests that keep coming back and forth, and you create a place for them to want to be there. And that's been very, thoughts and strategizing in our minds to say we have to focus on the culture piece first to make sure it's the right culture for not only our guests, but for our employees, more importantly, for them to want to stay, to want to celebrate whatever they're doing throughout the day. They want to do it right here at Chapter 4. They want to do it right here at Dooky Chase and create that family environment throughout the whole group.
Yeah. I used to say, well, I can't exactly go to my board and say culture is up 20%. But that doesn't mean it's not the most important thing in my business, because it is.
That's right.
So when you get the culture working for you, then you get something going on there. But I want to switch to how technology has helped change your restaurants. We were talking before about robots. There's actually a restaurant in New Orleans using them, robots, and I'm reading some interesting things about them, not what you would think, but there's lots of different things going on. And I don't know if he's around today, but also a young man with big New Orleans connections, John Stubbs, Jewel of the South, best bar in America, has started something called Movable Feast. I don't know if you guys, so there's all these different things going on. What do you gentlemen think about some of these ideas?
So we're not there on robots yet. I think that's probably going to come in some respects. We don't think about it that way. We think that dining is the last form of live entertainment to evolve. So people used to just go to a restaurant before or after going to do something else culturally relevant or significant, a concert, a play, a comedy show, or an art opening. And I think now they choose to go to restaurants instead of doing those things. They understand the art of it. So I think there will always be that necessity for human creativity and human touch. And I think technology is going to make us more efficient. I see AI making us efficient so that we work 30 hours a week instead of 45 hours a week, and we maybe make 20% more money, and we spend more of that time on personal health and wellness and on hospitality, re-engaging with human beings. So I think overall, from a macro standpoint, that's where it's going for us. What we do with technology, though, is we use technology and software to make things simpler and more lean. For instance, we use a software that scans invoices, and by scanning invoices each week, we can see what we sold. It scans the invoices as to what came in. It tells us what our food cost really was and what it should have been based on what we ordered. We always did that before, but we did that by hand. So you had someone literally logging into an Excel spreadsheet every week, and the reality of it is, that's the first thing to go when you get really busy, so it wasn't really every week. So that's how we use that, and we probably save 10 or 15 man hours a week just using that one piece of software. We use handhelds so that when you want to close your credit card out, people are in a rush, people have things to do. We can literally close your credit card out immediately at the table as soon as you get there. It doesn't take us 2 or 3 minutes, and then we get lost because a guest asks us to do something else. We also use technology to communicate. communication is really important. We take it for granted, particularly having more than one place. We used to just have Sylvain, you could just have pre-shift and you covered everybody. But we don't have that anymore now, right? So we use Google Meet, and we still have 15-minute check-ins every day, and some people have different off days than others, so you can just record that meeting, and you can share that meeting later. And so technology has allowed us to be much more communicative in a much more efficient way. It used to be, we're going to meet at Sylvain at 2 o'clock, and everybody's got to rearrange their plans. You got to drive down to the quarter. You got to find a place to park. You know, it's a 2.5 hour affair. And if that was an off day, it's not really an off day anymore. Now it's a 45-minute Google Meet, and if it's your off day, just watch the recording when you come back in. And you know, so it's enabled us to be so much more effective with people's time, and that's one of the things that's allowed us to be more productive. And honestly, that allows them to focus on the things they really care. Nobody gets in this business, or any business, very few of us, to work an Excel spreadsheet 10, 15 hours a week, right? I mean, let's be honest. But freeing up that 10 or 15 hours allows them to create new recipes. It allows them to entertain guests or to train and develop our team. So that's how I see it being applied effectively in our company.
Yeah, I would agree. Technology just enhances the hospitality it the place of. It creates those efficiencies to do those other.
And that's what they're saying about the robots. People are getting a kick out of them. I mean, they just like come along and bring you a little drink and talk to you, and people are, it's increasing the enjoyment of the restaurants where it can work at all. Anyway, I spent some time in California where they chase me down the streets and it's a little aggravating. I'm like, what is that little thing? Anyway, but they're using those things. We also talked about they're using drones for delivery in California and Texas.
I will say ChatGPT is going to make our investor reporting a lot more efficient and easier on us, on the three of us, for sure.
We'll talk about that. Talk about that. I mean, it's a whole different thing. It is a little aggravating to me when people who work for me already say, I'm just going to have ChatGPT write my emails. Okay, well, that just pisses me off. I don't know. What do you think?
It does. But, though, you know, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, Miss Ella got pissed off that somebody was emailing instead of handwriting that letter, right? And so
she was pretty hip.
So you know, it's here, and we just have to learn how to embrace it. It's just like the internet. It's like it's email. And so what I think it does do, again, I think it's always going to require human intervention and human vision and creativity. I just don't see it having the ability to do that, at least not yet. But it will. A lot of the fact checking, it makes Google searches far more efficient and effective, and you can get more concrete information that's probably, you know, much quicker.
Yeah. I would say, like, we have some old school systems that we can't find a way to really improve on. Like, if you come in the restaurant and there's just a note in the computer that says it's Camille's birthday, maybe that one person sees it, but, you know, so we have a good old form called the short form that you get in triplicate. And that way, there's a copy for the front door, a copy for the kitchen, and a copy for Lally or I, one of the, you know, management team. So, and I can't find a way to do that any better. And we call it the short form because people in our business are allergic to pen and paper and writing things down anyway. But it just gives you quick little information. So some things,
right. Nothing will ever replace a handwritten thank you note. Nothing will ever replace a high five in person, right? I mean, some things just can't be improved upon.
No, indeed. I don't know where we are, or maybe I do, time-wise, and if we want to have some questions, because we can keep going. Was there a question right there? No? Okay, well, I have more. So talk about some of these other things. Ghost kitchens. I mean, what are the things are you guys doing?
You know, ghost kitchens is interesting. When I opened up my new restaurant, and it's right in the CBD, I had a friend who operates a restaurant probably within a half-a-mile radius of it. And he said, man, did you ever think about ghost kitchens? I said, no, tell me a little bit about how it works for you. So this gentleman has a ghost kitchen in his normal operation, and he opens this ghost kitchen from, say, 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. in the morning. I know y'all probably say, who's ordering food at that time? But what he enlightened me to was all of the hotels that would close their 24-hour food service at 12 p.m., he got all of those customers coming. So he would operate a pizza kitchen. He would operate hamburgers and wings. And he says, the hotel guests are my guests, and we would just deliver. I said, that's smart, but I don't want a phone call at 2:30 on my phone. I got enough already, but that's Ghost Kitchen. That was very smart, and he said that sells more than his normal restaurant between those hours of
Wow.
getting all the hotel guests.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that's a great example, but I think what you guys are doing with Goldbelly, I think restaurants are finally starting to see themselves, and bars are starting to see themselves as maybe musicians always have, or even famous athletes are doing now, where margins can be tight in our business, but if you stack on a wine club on top of it, and you're doing Goldbelly, and you're doing merchandise, and you sort of tack on these revenue streams, even though none of them are as significant as selling food and drinks, you don't have any additional expenses. It's just the cost of those goods and services. And I think you're starting to see that happen more. So that's something we're working on at LeBlanc Smith. We have Lifted Spirits, which is a cocktail catering company. We're not ready to get into full catering, but we'll certainly do your bar. So you can have Sylvain's Bar or Barrel Proof's bar at your wedding or at your house party or whatever, and we'll come in with that bar team and those recipes. We're working on a retail program pretty heavily, and it's this idea of integrating good retail opportunities with these excellent hospitality experiences. And so, you think about it, grocery stores are brilliant at this. It's the impulse buy on the way out. It's a pack of bubble gum or it's beef jerky because you think you're
Right.
being healthy that day. But the idea of creating retail experiences for people to make those kinds of impulse buys because they want to commemorate an amazing memory they had.
Right.
Think about Dr. Cole, the new president of Loyola, who had a great time with you guys at Commander's Palace, right? He probably, if he had an opportunity to grab a candle from you guys or something, a frame, a print of an iconic Commander's photo,
Right.
he probably does that because
Yeah.
it sears a memory permanently. And that's how we have to start thinking about things.
Right. I always said that we're sort of idiot savants. We only do one thing really well. Anyway, but we're working on that. So tell me about other things that have changed. But back to your point real quick, I used to always say, and people would be surprised by this, but if you come to dinner and you buy a cookbook, I make more money on that.
Right.
So I think of it as putting a table on top of a table.
Yeah.
Because now I just made a lot more money than,
Right.
so you guys understand that. But talk about how guest expectations or habits have changed and or employees, because they have.
Well, one thing for us is like guests, we talk about all people. LeBlanc Smith creates excellent 21st century Southern hospitality experiences to enable all people to live joyful, balanced, and fulfilling lives. And for us, all people
Well
applies.
done. You did that very well.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. It applies to guest and team in equal measure. So the guests are certainly no better than our team, but they're no worse. And the converse is true. Our team is no better than our guests, but they're no worse. And so I think the guests and the team have a better symbiotic relationship, particularly post-COVID. I think guests probably appreciate what our team does and has gone through a little bit more. And conversely, I think our team probably appreciate our guests a little bit more because New Orleans was packed right up until the COVID shutdown.
Yep.
And you can take that for granted after a while. And that went away. And it was a tough year and a half. And so you don't know what you have till you lost it. And so I feel like it has recalibrated the relationship between guests and team members in our experience.
No doubt.
Yeah, I certainly would agree with that. Guests are more knowledgeable. They're more informed of what they're eating, how it's operating, who should be where, what, and when. And that's encouraging because it allows you to really focus in on what you should be doing, your job should be.
Yeah.
If that person is informed of how this plate should look, how this fish should be cooked, is it overcooked, this, that, and other, we need to be doing our job at the highest level. For me in the restaurant business is creating that memory for people to come in, especially at Dookie's. People come for anniversaries and birthdays and weddings, and you're just putting your name in that person's memory. I came for my anniversary, and now Dookie Chase and Chef Dook is etched in your family's memory for as many times as you tell a story about your own anniversary. So that's one reason why I find this industry so fascinating, and one of the best is because we become memories, or part of somebody's memory.
LeBlanc Smith will be here, but we'll work